Hello everybody, welcome to ChessDiagnostic. Here's a mate in 4 if you want to pause the video and try to solve it. How would you try to figure out, as white to move, obviously, the rook is threatening the queen, but the black king is heavily exposed, and how would you solve this position? You know it's a mate in 4 because I just told you, but there's multiple checks. There's queen check, there's the pawn, and there's the rook. Alright, so in this position, I calculated that if I just bring the rook over, then if the king comes, I can check, and I saw that because the king will either have to move over or the rook will check, then I'll have a good position. But I didn't see the final position until the end, so I played these moves, rook check, king over. Of course, if the king comes here, then it's checkmate immediately. But I saw that after the king comes in, the rook can interpose, and I had to sit here for a second or two until I saw queen to h6 check, which is kind of a cool move because now the king is forced to move over, and then we get this checkmate with the rook blocking the king, and then we get the rook checkmate with, ironically, the king is on the initial square. Alright, so I'll just go through this game real quick just to see how we arrived at this position. So I played e4, c5, knight to f3, and we get a Sicilian defense. Quite standard. And he brings the queen out early. So in this type of variation, I always like to play actively and aggressively. I'm not just going to move the knight back. I can't bring the bishop out because he would just take. It would leave the pawn vulnerable. And I don't want to play c3, so I play knight to b5. And after he attacks it, now I can bring my bishop out with a tempo. Bringing the knight back, probably d4 was a little better square. Bishop out, just developing all my pieces. b5, activating his queenside pieces with a tempo, and now after bishop to b7, I start playing, or planning, a sacrifice to expose this king in the center. So he plays slow. He should have just developed his bishop and then castled and he would have been okay. But here I play knight to d5. A somewhat speculative sacrifice, but actually the computer rates it as dead equal. But I feel I have a slight advantage in this position because I have a lot of threats, like bishop to b6, also threatening a fork after that. So he takes, I take, and now he decides to just expose himself to a discovery. As you can see, after he takes, I actually have a slight advantage. The computer's rating it as plus 0.4, and obviously the reason is because his king's sitting in the center, and I have a lot of activity and threats. He takes, I win the queen, and after I take, he takes the pawn. It looks like after some trades, of course, he loses a pawn to a tactic. He could have just taken here, but after I win here and he takes, now it looks like he's consolidated a little bit. I have a rook and a queen versus 2 rooks. So basically he got, let's see here, he's down a pawn, essentially, but based on the position, I'm actually winning because his exposed king is really vulnerable. And I activate my rook, and I start playing my pawn forward just to get an extra, I guess you could say, piece into the game, or pawn into the game. So he activates his rooks, but he doesn't really have any threats. Bringing my pawn forward, and now I'm threatening rook to g3, check, king forward, and now we have the end position with a mate in 4. So I hope you enjoyed this game. Just a quick video I'm getting out here because I enjoyed playing this mate in 4 and I thought it was pretty neat, so I'm just sharing it. Alright, I'll see you in the future. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe for future videos. See you in the future.